Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for those who are joining us from Asia. Welcome to today's webinar, a new special episode of the VeChain Bootcamp in order to celebrate the World Oceans Day. Today, we are going to be talking about how to reduce ocean plastic pollution. And for this webinar, I will be moderating the discussion. And my special guests today are Anne-Sophie Gate, General Manager at ReSea. Good morning, Anne-Sophie.
Good morning, Jerome.
And my second guest is Sven Edgren, Head of Digital Assurance Services at DNV. Good morning, Sven.
Hi, Jerome. Hi, Anne-Sophie.
So, as I said, we're going to be talking about how to reduce oceans pollution and actually how to even turn this problem into an opportunity. Basically, we're going to be showing you how to take plastics, plastic waste that has been collected in the ocean, and how to turn it into recycled plastic that will make its way back into the the normal economy as a circular economy. And which is kind of killing two birds with one stone. So not only do you have cleaner water, cleaner ocean, even cleaner rivers, but at the same time you reduce the number of plastic you produce because this plastic can be reused just the same as normal plastics. VeChain, as a blockchain leader, has been supporting from a technical standpoint ReSea and DNV. And today, during the talk, Anne-Sophie is going to start explaining how the project actually works, how things are done on the field. Sven is then, after that, going to give us a presentation on how the DNV as a certification body is supporting this initiative and implementing all the transparency that the blockchain technology allows. And then both of them will give us their views as to what will be the next step for this. During this session, you will have the possibility to ask some questions. We will answer that towards the end of the presentation. If you want to ask questions, please connect to the Zoom link and then click on the Q&A button. So for those of you who are already on Zoom, then it's as easy as clicking. If you're watching us from YouTube, please connect to Zoom to address our questions, and we'll answer that at the end of the presentation. So now it's time to hear from the panelists. Anne-Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And yeah, hello, everybody. And thank you for joining us today at this webinar. My name is Anne-Sophie, and I'm the General Manager at the ReSea project. I am in charge of our operations in Indonesia, meaning everything in terms of the logistics around our plastic collection, but also how we trace and track the plastic that we collect and the whole certification process that we have been involved with together with the DNV. I want to start out by saying that our team here in the ReSea project, we are not defined by engineers or marine specialists, marine biologists in this sense, or anything similar. We are quite basically a group of people who are sincerely concerned about the state of the ocean and climate change, and who wants to make a difference for the future of our generations. We all, I think, have a very special connection to the ocean, and I think everybody probably listening in today will have an idea or like a specific happy memory that is related to the ocean. And I think that's why, you know, on World Oceans Day, I think we can all agree that the ocean is something we can pretty much everybody relate to in an enjoyable way. At the same time, unfortunately, we have also already, all of us, seen a lot of this very horrible footage. Some of it is here on the screen of the huge amounts of plastic that finds its way into the oceans every day and is polluting our oceans and waterways. And unfortunately, this amount just keeps on growing by the minute. We keep hearing new statistics every day on how we need urgent and immediate action to prevent this kind of plastic pollution from happening, and to prevent future natural disasters to happen as well. And that is pretty much why we started ReSea project. We wanted to take part and do ours in that immediate action. And our vision from the beginning has been to create a solution that is tackling the ocean plastic crisis, and that is powered by businesses globally, a global movement of businesses that supports our mission. We wanted our cleanup solution to be involving the people in the areas of the world where it's mostly affected by plastic waste and plastic pollution in the oceans. And we wanted our solution to be scalable so that it could grow along with the amount of companies and businesses that chose to be part of our movement and support our work. So we started out by enrolling our solution in Indonesia, and we did this because Indonesia is one of the world's largest contributors to ocean plastic pollution. So we thought that this would be a great place to start our operations up. What we do is that we hire plastic collectors to sail out and collect plastics in oceans and rivers. We have chosen to operate both in oceans, but also in rivers, because rivers are where a very huge amount of the plastic that ends up in the ocean comes from on a daily basis. Our plastic collectors are people who are living in very low income areas in Jakarta in Indonesia. And many of them used to be or are still fishermen, but fishermen who have seen their livelihoods unfortunately dramatically decreased and affected because there is simply not a lot of fish or clams or seafood left to fish and eat in the ocean and in the rivers in these areas because it's so polluted. So what we do is that we instead ask them to quote unquote fish for plastic instead of fish for fish, or what they were used to fishing for. And in this way, we of course help them by paying them a fair and adequate amount for the plastic that they collect for us. We make sure that they can increase and better their livelihoods again. And at the same time, we stop plastic, or we help stop plastic from entering the oceans. And like I said, businesses around the globe can support our removal of plastic. And many have already chosen to do so and are choosing to do so because there is a global demand from consumers worldwide to consumers simply demand that the brands that they support at the same time also support social and environmental initiatives and take charge in these issues, so to speak. So when we started working, we realized that if we were to grow and expand our operations of collecting plastics in oceans and rivers, which we of course wanted to do because we wanted to make as great an impact as we possibly can, we realized that we needed to offer a fully complete documented process and transparency as well to the businesses that choose to support our mission and is powering and funding the work that we do. So therefore, we started out by approaching DNV because we learned that they have been the first to develop a new traceability standard within this area where we work. And in February this year, 2021, we became just the second organization in the world to receive this certification, which we obviously are quite happy about and proud of having been able to do. The certification that we have gotten is a chain of custody certification for plastic collected in the hydrosphere. And that means in our case, oceans and rivers, but could also be for others, other bodies of water, other waterways, etc. The certification ensures that we can provide the adequate proof that the plastic waste we collect is actually collected in oceans and rivers and not other places. And it also ensures that we have a fully controlled supply chain and a system that ensures full segregation of the plastic from the collection point in the boat until we hand over the plastic waste to our waste bank partners in the area. This creates transparency, and it also creates the trust that is needed for businesses and stakeholders to really trust in the impact that we do for the marine environment. To be able to achieve this high transparency and to be fully compliant with the certification, we developed a tracking system together with VeChain and with DNV to be able to follow the process and the journey of the plastic that we collect. And our digital tracking system contains of 3 components, and I know that Sven after me will follow up on some of this. But just to give you a brief introduction, it consists of a smartphone application, a smartphone app that is used by our collectors on site in the field to register all the points in the process of plastic collection. Then it consists of a blockchain system powered and provided by VeChain. And this system stores all the data that is registered on a daily basis by a collector, and it stores it, of course, in an immutable way. And then the last component is our analysis tool, Power BI, that extracts all the data from the blockchain and into a manageable system where we can trace or make it possible for us to trace all our collectors and the collecting process of the plastic that we collect. And here on the screen is a brief overview, a brief look into how we collect the plastic and how our collectors are registering in the application, the process. So in the first picture number 1, the collector will start out by sailing out to sea or to the river and find a spot with floating plastic waste. And before he starts to collect this plastic waste, he will log into the app and he will register, or actually the app will automatically register his location by use of GPS coordinate and automatically generated GPS coordinate, and then by photo proof of the plastic in the water. And after that, he will sail back and he will start to sort and bag the plastic after the removal, and he will attach some batch numbers to these batches of plastic. The batch number is the unique identification of this specific plastic batch, which makes it possible for us to trace it, both of course digitally, because he will also register the batch number in the application, but also on site because the batch number is attached to the bags from here on out. Then he will weigh the plastic, and he will of course register this weight in the application. And after this, we will come and transport his batch of plastic and all the other collectors' batches of plastic from this week, and we will take it to the nearest waste bank. And the waste bank will confirm the weight by weighing all the plastic once more and register this in the application. And after this, the waste bank will distribute the plastic for recycling and for waste handling purposes onwards. So just to round up my presentation for today, I just wanted to show you a few pictures here from the field. These 3 pictures of plastic in both the ocean and in some of the rivers that we work in are actual pictures that has been taken as photo proof and has been registered in the blockchain by our collectors. So this is what they experience in the field on a daily basis. And I can tell you this much: it's just this is just a very few of, I would reckon, hundreds of pictures actually that we see on a daily basis like this. And it really gives you the idea of the magnitude of the problem. And of course, it also shows why it's so important that we work together, all of us, to solve this global issue of ocean plastics. So that was it for me for now. So I would like to thank you for listening in.
Thank you very much, Anne-Sophie, and thank you for emphasizing the extent of the problem of ocean plastic pollution. I think we're all aware of it. We've all seen plastics. Even on the shore of France, you see plastics in the ocean, but you don't necessarily gauge the amount that this can represent. And I think that the solution and the effort you have put on is terrific. Not only do you have a comprehensive process, but also you give job opportunity to the local population. And on top of that, you put a lot of rigor in what you do, and having the certification of an independent party like a century-old company, I think is really amazing. So really congratulations. And actually now I'd like to hear more from the certification part, because I think it's very important to do the right thing in the right way, but it's even more important to make sure you can communicate that, and then you can build a trust with the people you communicate with. So maybe Sven, I will turn over to you so you can give us a bit more insights into how this magic happens.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Anne-Sophie. And you can also go to the next page if you like. So a warm welcome to you all. I head up digital assurance services at DNV, and thereby we assist companies in managing real-life supply chain challenges around traceability, sustainability, and efficiency, and apply supply chain domain excellence with appropriate digital tools, which I'll talk a little bit about. Since about 4 years, we have an interest in exploring how blockchain can be an extension element, helping us to transform our service delivery around audit and supply chain work. And we have a fruitful and very strategic partnership with VeChain since then. So let us dive a little bit into the background for the ocean traceability standard. We launched it last May 2020. And it covers essentially following the plastic material from A to Z and overseeing that this is done properly. And it can be applied flexibly to parts of the process or the whole chain, let's say, to a finished product. Now, why is this essential? We think that turning reclaimed plastic from trash into value is critical to cleaning up our ocean rivers. And businesses and individuals must be able to trust that products made from reclaimed plastics are what they claim to be. And I'd like to highlight some of the key drivers, what is behind this. So there's a need for outright definition and, a checkup. So I think consumers cannot identify with certainty which products are actually made from ocean plastics and what that means without a framework surrounding it. Many claims can be made which are either misleading, or it's not clear, or there is no audit trail or method behind how that plastic has been collected and further transformed. And several labels are portraying ocean plastic, not clear about what their traceability or chain of custody is behind, from collection, recycling, and into a transformational process resulting in a new product. What we also did is put in recognized standards and benchmarks into this standard. So ISO principles, hearing rounds among all types of stakeholders, reaching from collection, recycling, NGOs, brands, fast-moving consumer goods companies, in order to build in the required robustness of the approach and to also address the needs that were expressed. We have combined data-driven, sustainability principles, science-based methods, allowing us to measure what is going on. And also the wider corporate social responsibility aspect is addressed with topics such as fair wage when it comes to labor built into it. And the last point on this one is certification and digital approaches are highly blended. And a key reason is that the chain of custody, as we call it, so following from A, B, C throughout the process, is extensive, meaning that by doing it through traditional means, and thereby I mean a person in the field on the ground to sort of oversee this or audit it, it's simply not efficient and it's not economically viable. So digitalization here offers its full potential, you could say, and a whole new means to gain the granular information and to remotely assess whether a process is working, and also to realize this at a cost which makes it work. And lastly, the principles of the standard also I can summarize as follows. So we have a chain of custody, which means that the requirements of this traceability system are implemented and applied by all the players that subscribe to this. And this is what we mean by chain of custody. The whole chain is activated to the extent wished. Then there is the point of segregation. Anne-Sophie mentioned that it's important materials and products in scope are identified and segregated. So you can actually pinpoint, this was the actual material collected. And that status is traceable and verifiable at any stage of the process. And the final principle is circularity. So we wish to promote manufacturing of new products using plastics from the ocean and creating new value instead of just moving, stuff from trash from waters to land. If you go to the next, please, Anne-Sophie. So how did this start? I mean, the blockchain journey DNV has been on. It started in 2018, so 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, with the launch of what we call native digital certificates on the blockchain. That means all our certificates issued were created as non-fungible tokens at the outset, allowing to tag certificates, content, usage rights by that company, and versioning, so version 1, 2, and 3, and tie that to a company identity. Now, the validity of certificates can be checked at any point in time, and any user relying on the certificate information to qualify a company can do so by going back to the native digital certificate on the blockchain. And new versions can be issued based on the original cert. And this allows to circumvent fake certificates and have a true trail of certification validation. So just to highlight that this was an example, if DNV, for instance, audits a set of production entities, it can be, let's say, 3 facilities for quality and environment. Then we do that, and that is job done. But if a 4th facility is added, we don't have to cancel and reissue the certificate. We just document the extension of the scope to the blockchain, and thereby a useful history can be documented and authenticated. And that was the start. Then we took that same functionality for our own certificates and make it available to other companies called Tag Trace Trust, and putting them in a position to also emit trusted digital documents on the blockchain. And when it comes to the immutability granted of information, that is, a core, a feature of blockchain. This is, as you can imagine, for this type of purpose and any traceability supply chain documentary event, very, very useful. And we also see more and more benefits in ecosystem buildup, where trusted information sharing across many parties and contributing information is taking place. And lastly, you could say that incentive mechanism enabled by tokenization can help create the right drive amongst businesses and private people alike. So we see it as a key motivator to intelligently use technology such as blockchain to change behavior and have a bias for action in doing good. Thus, blockchain for us is not just using technology, it's really uncovering a new way of creating new business propositions around supply chain integrity. And many of them these days are aiming at sustainability offerings like the one we are talking about today. So we could turn a bit back into the case, if you could kindly move on to the next, please. So back to the mobile app. So we have the mobile app, crowdsourcing information. This is then collated and made available through Power BI analytics. And that is essentially what we use to analyze activity protocols. So Anne-Sophie mentioned that the mobile app is used by fishermen to document their plastic catch. So single activities such as the harvest, the bagging, the shed storage, and all these operations can be summarized. And actually they are available, what we call in real-time manner. So independently of whether we look at it, every week, every 2 days, or bi-weekly, it is a constant stream of information, which is an audit and certification context is actually quite revolutionary. And as mentioned, key information are GPS coordinates, the people behind, picture evidencing that make all part in realizing how we can then assess what is going on. we can remotely follow the process and assess activity levels, drawing these analytics. Our audit work transforms because we can remotely assess a lot of the facts, and when we are in the field on top of it, we already know that the process works, and we can then focus our work on other matters than basic adherence to the protocol. We can go more into detail and be faster and also less intrusive on the operations. So through this digital audit stream, we can increase the level and the relevance of assurance, such as remote audits. And we can go into a level of accuracy which is probably 10 or 100 times higher than through traditional means. And next to the pure traceability aspect, I just also wanted to emphasize that the audit also encompasses the livelihood of these fishermen. You know, checking that there's above minimal fair wage earned. It's even down to checking not just their contract, but also the wired amounts that they receive on their bank accounts. So you see that we do multi-point checkups, which cross-reference each other and confirm each other. Next, please. So I'd like to end a bit with, you know, why this all matters and what is, let's say, the larger context. You know, trust is the name of the game. In summary, we are a group of companies, the three of us today, actually wanting to achieving real sustainable change. And as I hope you can grasp, technology, also the use of blockchain, is not enough. What this project does is fly only if there is willingness to open up, cooperate, and have an ecosystem mindset. We share data, we have defined rules of the game, like the standard I just mentioned, and then we validate that data, activities, and events all tie together. And what we want to achieve is that the digital shall be a true representation of reality. And that's our pledge. And to create an economically viable circular economy, trust and transparency around provenance is absolutely needed from the start of the supply chain until the end of the process. This will allow manufacturing new products using plastics from ocean to create new value. And transparency comes from the documented impact around the integrity of the material, the product life cycle, and the corporate social impact through this. So what we're really doing is, you know, we are transmitting from the information age into value age. We make recycled materials transparent, contribute to new value streams. Local communities and economies are strengthened. Brands can offer, you know, new products, and we consumers, us individuals, can have new experiences with products that feel good because they are good. So our ambition and involvement for DNV is really to be independent, help to achieve this better and sustainable performance. We empower the companies to pursue these ambitions and help consumers to make the right informed choices, and we all benefit from democratized access to this information. So 3 last things I'd like you for you to take with you. More trust will lead to better business, and the journey to sustainability is continuous and it cannot be held back. And then we all as individuals do our contribution by making the right informed decisions and taking action. So now it's on us to make it right. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Sven. Thank you for this like information that you provided us. I think now it's more clear for everybody how this works. Once ReSea has done the great job, how do you then support that? And what you explained about first starting with identifying the clear definition of the claim and the chain of custody, I think this is very important. This is kind of the traditional job of the NVGL, where you have your expertise. And what I think is quite amazing is that you have combined that with latest technology. So you shared with us some screenshots of the mobile applications, which I recognize very well, obviously. And I think it's really great that you managed to get it as close as it gets to the real data collection. So actually, even I don't know if I can call them the fishermen, the collectors really have the phone in hand, so they can actually record information as they collect. So this combination of the two leading to I would say tag, trace, trust. I think it's really the world of tomorrow. It's really the combination of traditional expertise together with brand new technology to beautify the work that ReSea is doing for this noble cause. Before we wrap up the presentation, I just wanted to remind everybody that you can ask questions because we're going to be addressing that in a moment. And so if you want to ask question, please click on the Q&A button in the Zoom, and then we'll tackle those questions in a few minutes. So now to wrap it up, maybe Sven and Anne-Sophie, can you shed some light on what are the next steps? What are the ambitions going forward for this collaboration?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Sven, as well, for a really great presentation. I will say from our end here, ReSea project, we have of course some future ambitions that we want to share. The work that we have done so far with DNV and with VeChain, I think has been really in many ways groundbreaking, if I dare say so myself, and being able to use this platform provided by VeChain and DNV and to be able to get the certification for us at ReSea project and to combine that with how we work, which is on a very practical level, has been, I think, really a milestone for us. At the same time, we also see it as just the first step into what we can do, because I think there is so much more to be done, and there's so much more that we can do in the future. First of all, we would like to, of course, expand our collection capacity. Thus far, here in between January and April 2021, we have collected over 300 tons of plastic, and we of course want to collect more. At the same time, we have created jobs in Jakarta in Indonesia for over 50 people in low-income areas, and have provided them with salaries that are way above the minimum wage in the area. I think around 75% higher than the minimum wage. So of course this will also entail that we can do even more good for these people in these areas. We also, of course, want to expand to other countries than only Indonesia. I think merely countries in Southeast Asia would really be interesting to look into. And then we would like to of course, control a larger part of the supply chain to ensure an increase of the recyclability of the plastic, because that is, of course, a major deal breaker as well. And along with that, we would like to expand our certification and the high traceability that we provide, and we would like to cover a larger part of our supply chain with this certification. And this will, of course, only be possible for us to do in great collaboration with DNV and the expertise and that they have on best practices within certification, and of course at the same time also the technology and the great know-how that VeChain provides. So we really see this as a future endeavor as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So I second Sophie that the scope needs to become larger. We need to build ecosystems. More brands need to join in. Ultimately, the market power is coming from consumers demanding these type of products. In a sense, positively putting pressure on consumer goods companies to want to source this type of material. So I think more scale, larger movement, bigger impact. Then I think also infrastructure locally is needed. You can imagine it makes, let's say, no sense to collect locally, and this is happening, here and there, put plastics in containers and ship them to the other half of the world. That is, unwanted for several reasons. I think there's both the local value creation side and also the environmental side. I mean, we need to sort of deal with things locally, regionally, and also have the corresponding, transformation into new products also in that same region. I think also we can attach, more exciting information to this type of journey. So today we focused a lot on, following the material. And that's, as we highlighted, challenging enough. But I think the next step should be to add more attributes to this. So, what is the CO2 footprint of this product that stems from, the ocean and is then transformed locally? That CO2 footprint of such a product, not only is it, good for taking plastic out of the ocean, but it could be highly, highly beneficial to have just a superior product in terms of CO2 impact. And lastly, I think we can even become more, granular when it comes to traceability. So we are already working on, product integrity with DNA markers. So you essentially attach, let's say, a substance, onto the product, into the product, so it can be applied by spray. It's all, let's say, non-toxic, and thereby you could really also assess without actually being there. You could assess that, yes, that from that specific GPS location, and following it to, let's say, the first or second step of transformation, you could, just increase efficiencies and lower the cost further. So I think, bigger, more impact, more efficient, lower costs, and then I think the whole, let's say, system can unravel and really become something unique.
Very good. Thank you very much to you both. Now it's time to move over to questions. I think we received a number of questions in the past few minutes, which is good. So let's go ahead and address them. For the first one, I think is directed to Anne-Sophie. The question is, how much importance do you attribute to the success of the project to VeChain and DNV? And as a follow-up question, have you considered other blockchain platforms rather than VeChain? And what are the pros and cons, the benefit of using VeChain over other blockchains you might have considered?
Great question. First question, in terms of the impact we can do, I think it's what's so great about this partnership or collaboration between the three of us, VeChain, DNV, and ReSea project, is that we really are specialists within our own areas. And I think I am by no means a technology expert, and in a sense, we are experts on how to collect plastic. And what you can see here on the screen actually is that it's very, in that case, low maintenance, the kind of work that we do. It's about involving people on a practical level, and we try to do things as simple as we can to make as great as impact as we can. So we can collect the plastic, and we can make sure that it's moved further down the line, so that we can create a circular system. But what we could not do, or what we were really happy to be able to, instead of trying to figure that out on our own, but to actually find the best partners in the industry with DNV and with VeChain, was that here we have DNV who are maybe the best in the business in terms of assurance, and have many years of experience in how to create robust and controlled supply chains within many different industries, not only in the area of ocean plastic. So of course we were very interested when we heard that they had actually come up with a certification that was completely specialized within this area. And to my knowledge, it's still the only one that is like greatly acknowledged in the market. And in terms of VeChain, VeChain for us came in as part of our endeavor with DNV. So it wasn't, we weren't really out to search for other blockchain platforms. And I will be very honest with the community here today that I'm not a blockchain expert, but I have of course looked into why it's important for us to be able to use blockchain, and I've learned a lot in my time spent with both the people from VeChain and DNV in this area. So what I think is great is that we have shown here with VeChain, and that VeChain has been open to create a system that can be used for other kinds of means than, for example, crypto valuta and the stuff that you in the mainstream hear more about. So for us, it has been a great learning experience in terms of finding that out. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question is also a bit high level. Is for this type of project, how is this project kind of high level funded? Is this supported by governments? And as a follow-up question as well is, does ReSea make any profits out of this, and how?
Yeah, well, we are 100% self-sufficient in the way that we're not an NGO, we are a for-profit business, meaning that the money we spend is the money we make ourselves. And this has been the purpose or the mission from the beginning. We wanted to create a self-sufficient system because we wanted it to be efficient. So the businesses that fund our work is the businesses that we remove plastic on behalf of, meaning that a company can come to us and say, we would like to remove this and this amount of plastic, and we will pay you to do so. And then we already have the system in place, which is what we have discussed today. And yes, we do make a profit because we are a business just like any other business. What we wanted to do was to create a business where the key element in our services is to do good for the environment. And of course, what we do is not necessarily the cheapest option, because we have chosen to create full traceability, and we have chosen to document everything we do and to work with DNV, who are a really, really great partner. So this is part of the service you get when you work with us. It is this high level of traceability.
Thank you very much. Maybe the next question will be for Sven. Sven, who guarantees that the data collected from the collector is not manipulated? And what is the origin of the data?
Yeah, so I mean, data is captured decentrally, but as I think I try to cover is that we do checkpoints on how data is gathered, and the beauty of it, let's say, when you have large amount of data gathered, so let's say 50, 80 fishermen that are continuously doing this, is you get a layer of information which allows you then to spot outliers or to flag inconsistencies, right? So it's also, I mean, then our full, let's say, audit capability can also, instead of being like a blank carpet approach, we can, based on the analytics, just go into where there might be, an inconsistency or maybe even a wrongdoing, to rectify that and to sort of challenge it and then make it right again. So of course, wherever there are people, businesses, mistakes can happen, willingly or not even wanted. But that is a bit, of course, how we address it, that we look at analytics, but we also look at the processes and people, and thereby highlight, whenever something is seemingly not going as it should.
Okay, and as a kind of a follow-up question, how does blockchain and DNV services, how do blockchain and DNV services solve the critical issue of data transparency in the most effective way?
Okay, so if I'm a little bit blunt, I think it's back to the old IT saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? So the blockchain doesn't solve that. So a bit our stance is, of course, to work with an IT landscape where we are not just shoving data into the blockchain, but we have intermediate, I would say, layers where data can be first collected, then reviewed, then signed off, and then added to the blockchain. So we just essentially see blockchain as an extended, trust element. For sure, the granting immutability, granting the fact that you have an auditable trail. That's something that we auditors, so to speak, love. And I think those are the natural properties that we integrate as well as we can, but at the same time use to pivot our own new service deliveries and just making it smarter and better.
Okay, thank you, Sven. There is a few questions related to the economical aspect of the project, especially with the cost. So I will try to make a group of those questions. But like the theme is about what are the costs of ocean plastics collection with regard, I mean, compared to other type of collections. I don't know if.
Yeah, I think I can maybe pick up on that a little bit. from what I'm hearing, Jerome, is the question is if it's more costly to collect plastic in waters than it is to collect plastic in other areas like land and something like this. Yeah. First of all, of course, that depends on your method. I will not guarantee that there is not people out there who can make very cost efficient water collection, but it is a more complex process to collect plastic in the water. But I think it's important to understand it's not the collection in itself, meaning the fishing net going into the ocean and collecting it up to the boat. That is not the costly part of it. You can see here it's manually. Of course, we pay our collectors a good pay, so of course that needs to be covered. But it's more the whole handling of the plastic from it reaches the boat and the journey onwards from for us until it reaches the waste bank. It's for us to be able to fully document and control that system, be able to ensure both digitally but also on site that it's secured, that it's segregated, identified, kept in a way that it's manageable. It's all these steps that makes and the fact that we can provide the proof that our plastic is only collected in oceans and rivers. Because of course, if you just have a broader like waste management sense and you just collect plastic everywhere, from households and from the streets and so forth, of course that's going to be, then you don't have to have that segregation, you don't have to have that specific control, because it's just waste coming from everywhere and it needs to be taken care of. But since we are in the area of very specific ocean and river plastic, we need to control it in a different way, because otherwise we will not be able to prove to our stakeholders, the businesses that choose to support us, that when they purchase ocean and river plastic collection from us, that's actually what they get. And it's a very important part in this landscape today, where you see, unfortunately, a lot of greenwashing. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had a follow-up question, but I think you kind of answered it already. Like of course, there is extra cost in collecting this way rather than, I would say, more generic ways. And another question was around, as you collect the waste, you also obviously capture the data that goes in. This comes at an additional cost, and whether or not this was worth this extra cost. But I guess from what you said, the same logic applies, and there is value added to this, which justifies the cost. Well, I don't know if there is anything you want to add on top of this.
Well, I can only say that the businesses that choose to support us, they care a great deal about the fact that we can document and trace the plastic, because otherwise, if they just have to trust us, and even though we are good people, that's not how it works in today's with businesses. You need to have that documentation in place. Otherwise, people don't have anything to sort of, they won't be able to prove the impact. So when they tell their customers, which is the consumers like you and myself, that we have collected this amount of plastic, they need to be 100% sure that it is actually being done. So it's extremely important to them, and I believe that's why they don't really see that as something that has to be very low cost, for example.
Okay, thank you. And just to finish on the topic of cost, somebody is asking, what about the cost of the blockchain itself? I can answer this one. The cost of using the actual blockchain, of course, we have some experts in the audience. When you use the VeChain blockchain, obviously all transactions need to be done with the use of V4. VeChain, we provide a platform called Toolchain that manages the V4. This platform is actually used by DNV to propose their services. So in a sense, for ReSea, the cost of the blockchain is kind of embedded into the cost of the service of DNV, so they don't have to worry too much about this. Actually, questions are actually coming faster than we can answer them, which is good, because it means the topic is very interesting. But if it continues like that, I'm not sure we'll be able to address all of them. I saw one that I wanted to ask Sven. Yeah, what happens with the plastic collected, or maybe it's a joint answer actually. What happens with the plastic collected and turned into the waste bank? Can it also be verified that collected plastic is actually recycled and is not burned or tossed back into the ocean?
That is a very good question. Our supply chain ends with the waste banks at this point, and that's what I said in terms of the future ambitions that we have. That we of course want to be able to extend our supply chain and the certification, so we can also completely and utterly verify this as well. The stage that we are in as today is that we use waste bank partners in Indonesia, and a waste bank is like a recycling and waste handling facility. We have the same system here in Europe, where you can take your waste and to a designated designated facility. They can be both privately and publicly run, but they are all under the authority and the control of the local environment agency, so the local authorities in the area. And what they do with the plastic is that they use as much as they can for recycling. They will sell that on to recyclers who can use it, so that there is a monetary intent as well in terms of recycling as much as you can. And a lot of it is also used for energy purposes, incineration and so on. And of course, some of it is also just in such a bad state that it cannot be handled, but will be put in designated areas like landfills or something like this. This is of course the process that we would like to be able to extend on as well. But like I said in the beginning, what we wanted to do was to make an impact from the get-go. We didn't want to wait 10 or 20 years for the technology of recycling to catch up. We wanted to start doing what we could at this point. So this is why we have chosen to do this, to make sure that we remove the plastic from the waterways, we remove it from the oceans and from the rivers, where it's really polluting, and it becomes microplastic. It harms a lot of species, and as well as the health of the people who are reliable of living off the ocean. So this is, but this is again, as companies choose to support our mission, and they do so because we have this partnership as well with DNV and VeChain, that we can prove the work that we do. It makes it possible for us to scale, and not just terms. I'm not only talking scale in terms of size. It's also in terms of what we can do and how much we can verify and identify in the chain.
Thank you, Anne-Sophie. We also have a number of people that wonder if we have any figures as to how many plastics so far has been collected, and maybe if there are any projections going forward of plastic to be collected through this project.
Yes, well, actually, this is a part we haven't touched upon today. It's not only the process that we have verified or certified by DNV, it's also the actual amount of kilos that we collect on a monthly basis. So every month, we will go together with a DNV auditor. We will look in the Power BI and the blockchain actually to verify the data that's in there. And we have at this point verified the data from 1st of January until the 30th of April. And in this period, I think it was just around 305 tons of plastic. So you can follow how much we collect on a daily basis on our webpage, where we will every month update with the monthly number of how much we collect.
Okay, thank you. Maybe questions that are a little bit more specific about the technical aspect of the project. So let me actually find my question. Well, there are two questions. So let me ask you the first one. You know, on your slide about the cleanup process on slide 6, there were 7 steps, and the step number 3 was around sorting the recovered plastic, and the question is, what can we do to make the plastic segregation of step 3 more efficient?
If I understand the question correct, of course, it all comes down to sorting. But what the collectors do on the boat is, of course, sorting in terms of what kind of products. So they will sort. They're not plastic experts. They will not be able to go into the plastic and see what kind of material does it contain. But what they can do and what they can sort is to sort plastic bottles, plastic bags, stuff like this. This is like a rough sorting, and then it will be sorted multiple steps along the chain after it has left our part of the handling, in terms of being able to use it as the best as possible. And
actually, in terms of collectors, is there like any ways to kind of optimize or make it more efficient? Are there any technology that are automated that could be used?
Well, now we're sort of getting into the field of more like plastic processing, which is not really my field. But what we can do in terms of helping and training our collectors to sort better within the part of the chain that we control is, of course, that's also what we are in discussions with DNV and VeChain about is how to make, for example, the application itself help the collectors more in the process, not only in the sorting, but if you have in the application a system that can help them identify the plastic better and help them sort it better. This is the kind of things that we are also looking into to be able to do better in the future, of course.
Okay, thank you. And now to broaden a bit the scope, we have actually a question from Kangaroo Island in South Australia. And the question is there a scope to introduce the program and the application to the community cleanup groups and schools, for instance? So the person asking the question acknowledges there might not be high volumes of collector, but it would kind of spread the word. And we have additional questions in some way that is there like at the same time, are there plans or collaboration maybe with other companies to provide educational program to local population in order to know how to dispose the plastic in an efficient way? We go back to the other collection as opposed to just obviously throwing it into the river that will end up in the ocean.
Yeah, well, we are actually working together with local organizations in Indonesia that has the specific purpose of making a better waste handling initiatives and to create awareness of plastic pollution for schools in the districts of Indonesia. And we also have companies as well that not only support our collection process, but also support the work that we do with these organizations and wants to ensure that we not only collect the plastic, but also try to prevent it from entering into the waterways. And the best way of doing so is a combination of course, providing the resources for the waste handling, because these people who throw the plastic or the waste out in the rivers, they don't do it because they're necessarily evil or anything. They do it because they don't really have anywhere else to put it. So if we had the same problem here in the West, it will probably look the same. And then, of course, what you can also do is to start create awareness, because of course there needs to be more awareness and better know-how in the area. And this is what we do with collaborating on local organizations in Indonesia. This is also something, if the person asking the question is more interested in, that you can read more on our website about the local partners that we have.
Thank you. And now a couple of questions about the response from different entities. Did you receive any feedback from the Indonesian government, for instance? And also, how do large corporate or your clients respond to that? For instance, do the corporates want to get involved in order to be more social responsible, to have more basically in the CSR effort?
Well, in terms of the Indonesian government, we are working together with the Indonesian government, because they are the ones who it's the environment agencies, meaning it's the environment agencies of the municipality, the government of Jakarta that handles the plastic that we collect. So we are always in contact with them, and they're quite happy about the work that we do, and they have been really opened their eyes towards private initiatives like ours, but of course not just us ourselves, but how private initiatives like ours can help them, because they do have a big resource problem in terms of handling all the immense amounts of waste that there is in Jakarta. So of course they're happy to get all the help they can get with this, and at the same time also for private initiative to create jobs for people who would normally maybe be out of the workforce because they don't have the necessary education or something like this to really become part of the Indonesian workforce. And then in terms of the other question, well, definitely corporates see this as a part of their CSR strategics and initiatives. it's no secret that brands today are looking for ways to of course have a green image, but I think from the difference for today in terms of how it was maybe 10 or 20 years ago, it was merely an image thing. Whereas today, consumers they are very knowledgeable about environmental issues, and if you just say you're green or that you're protecting the oceans, the consumers will demand to see the documentation, and they will demand to see the proof. It's not enough to just say that you are. You need to be able to prove your impact. And I think that's why we have a place in the world, basically, because companies are looking for initiatives and companies like ours who can provide that proof.
I could also add to what Anne-Sophie says, that in the hearing rounds when we were developing the standard, that was probably the single most important feedback from large brands, fast-moving consumer goods companies, that yes, it's okay that you have a technical traceability solution, chain of custody, but the whole aspect of wider CSR, so corporate social responsibility, social welfare, was absolutely critical to embed into this whole setup, because that is really what, it doesn't help you. I mean, if you collect plastics and then on the other side of the coin, you are just, not respecting people's right to earn a wage, etc. So I think that is very, very key. And like Anne-Sophie says, it's not just about saying you do it, but actually showing you do it.
And now, in terms of, we've run a little bit over, so maybe we're going to take on a couple more questions. I apologize in advance for those I cannot answer the questions of. So before last question, in terms of expansion of the ecosystem, are you guys working with regulators to make recycling of plastic more attractive, for example, carbon neutral or even negative, and kind of also to expand the ecosystem? Is there any plan to connect this ecosystem to the carbon ecosystem that already exists in China?
I'm not 100% sure about what system we are referring to here, but I can say so much as, of course, the recyclability of the plastic. I think it's what is on everybody's minds today, because we all know that we have a huge problem with the amount of virgin new plastic that enters the world, not just the oceans, but very much also the oceans. And we all part of the problem, because we all consume an immense amount of single-use plastic every day. So of course, I think it's companies, it's government entities, it's business assurance companies, it's everyone involved have this common agenda that we want to be able to recycle as much as possible. And I can only say that I've seen just in the years that I work within this, that there are so many great initiatives starting now. The technology is really catching up, and it's also becoming a lot more in terms of costs and in terms of what you can do. It becomes way more attractive today to be able to recycle the plastic. It's still more expensive to recycle plastic than it is to make your product in new plastic, and this is why, of course, the trend or the progression is not happening as fast as we could all hope. But I can assure you that everybody have this on top of mind today, and the technology is really catching up on this point. So I think we will see a quite steep development in the coming future.
I could also add, Jerome, there is of course a dialogue with regulatory bodies. There are committees, associations, some of which we are actively part in working groups. I think there is some caution, of course, on sort of waiting for regulatory, let's say, framework, because I think what ReSea is doing and many others is really to sort of take the bull by the horn, right? I mean, there is a problem, it's there to be solved. There are technology and organizational elements that can be used to solve it, and it's commercially viable already. I think what is needed is, of course, as we talked about, the utility scale to really also further drive down cost, and then it kind of becomes a self professing movement. So I think, yes, we are working towards the regulatory There is, as you know, as the community may know, there are plans, of course, that any company, instead of putting plastic into the system, are obliged to also ensure that it's also properly handled throughout the system and in its reverse logistics. So definitely there is more stringent demands coming, and but I think the industry as a whole is, I think, well advised to take action, and they are doing it because that is probably the best way.
Thank you, Sven. And maybe final question, kind of a scope extension, maybe future developments. Is there like plans to actually in the future be able to? We know that right now it's already possible to track when you purchase a good that it was made of recycled plastic. That is the whole purpose of this project. But then will it go even further so as to actually identify when you purchase a particular product, to identify which area or what plastics has been collected to make this product, and also as an additional scope, by collecting the plastic, will there be even further sorting out to identify what type of packaging are being disposed of in a polluting way, and maybe what brands of goods are usually more thrown away, so as to maybe give them some feedback and so they can target more their customers?
Yeah, that's an exciting question. So, I mean, when it comes to what level of granularity can you identify in a new product, where it's coming from, what's in it, I think the answer is yes, there will be more detailed information about it. It's of course based, such information can only be procured if from the very beginning of the stage you have access to this traceability and document it. So I think what exactly this project we have talked about the last hour is the basis to transmit this information into new products, and that can be then accessible through a QR code on that new product packaging or something. Yeah, I think that's key. Remind me of the second again, sorry, Jerome.
The second is, right now we are sorting the plastics because
yeah,
I guess
sorting. Okay.
When you collect.
Yeah, so I think there, of course, it's in some extent you can recognize, okay, there's a lot of plastic bottles from this and that brand. That may be possible. I think the fidelity of tracking that is very, very hard to do. Let's say from a chain of custody perspective. But I think exactly what is happening, in regulatory point of view is now that when you put a new bottle or a new container or whatever plastic packaging, there will be more stringent requirements as to marking, where it stems from in the first place. So in the production with line integration and serialization, you will have to maybe sort of earmark where this is coming from in order also to be able to recoup it back. And lots of technology innovation is happening about that. And to much more extent than now, I think in the future, this can be properly tracked, and you can sort of make companies then accountable for that they take out what they put into the system.
Okay, very good. Well, that was the last question for today. We overran a bit, but I think it was worth it. Thank you very much both for this, and thank you for all the viewers. Of course, you will be able to see this recording on YouTube if you haven't been able to watch it, or if you want to watch it again. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Good day, good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye-bye.